You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the October 25th meeting of the Michigan City Sanitary Board. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
And welcome to the monthly Board of Commissioners regular meeting for the Sanitary District. Call to order for the Wednesday, October 25th, 2023 board meeting. So I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
We'll do roll call first.
Oh, so sorry. Let's do roll call. Holt?
Present.
Chris?
Present.
Tim?
Present.
And Tim Smith is present.
I'm here to keep it.
I know. So I'd like to ask for approval of the regular board minutes from September 27th, 2023.
Comments on minutes?
Yep.
First, on page 3 of 4, the third paragraph regarding laboratory building, it is Wiss Janie Elsner and not Wiss Janie Eisner. It should be E-L-S-T-A-N-R and not E-I-S-T-N-E-R.
Okay. Can we make that correction, please? Thanks. Is there any other discussion items on the minutes? Seeing none, can I ask for a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 4, public comment. Yep. Come on up.
How are you?
Good.
My name is Bessie Morris, and I work here at the Sanitary District. My reason for coming here today was to address an issue that has been ongoing for about, I guess, a little bit over a month. It's really to you, Commissioner Legowski. My question to you was, why was I singled out in this overtime situation?
Do we want to take this into an executive session? Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I feel like with the memo that was put out today is a retaliation against the fact that I went to the state for my claim when I was asked to not work overtime. And I just want to ask you, sir, why did you single me out? What caused you to feel that my overtime was a problem or I was doing something wrong? What even made me on your radar?
This is a personal matter.
Yes. Well, I did, sir. I did reach out. I emailed everyone.
So,
The point is, we don't have this initial discussion at least in public.
Okay.
We'll have a executive session where you have full ability to tell everybody, the board.
No, of course, I
your
respect
stuff.
that.
And also, if you have any documents you want to submit.
Yeah, sure.
Anything like that.
Yes, sir. That was my reason for coming today, because I did send emails. I didn't send one to you, sir, but I did send emails, and I never received a response.
Right, because they're not supposed to respond individually as board members.
Okay.
Only as a board.
Yes, sir.
So you should submit, it could be, 20 words, but
Yes, sir.
a written request. Give it to Mike Milovich,
Yes, sir.
general manager, saying, I would like to meet with the board
Yes, sir.
to talk about my, however you want to describe, personnel issues,
Yes, sir.
whatever.
Okay. No
And then
problem.
they'll set up an executive session, you'll be notified,
Okay.
and you can plan, like I said, have free discussion as to whatever you want to talk about.
Of course, I appreciate that. Okay, thank
Okay,
you're welcome.
Yeah.
you. I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
any other public comment? Seeing none, public comment period is closed. I don't think we have any bids for anything, right?
No, we do not.
Okay. All right. So Dan, you want to come up on safety, please?
And be careful.
Okay. And be here.
Afternoon.
Yeah.
So, in the month of September, the refuse department did not have any reportable injuries. And so I'm pleased to report the last recordable injury in the department occurred on June 12th, which is 110 days without a reportable injury. Commendable job by everyone in the refuse department, looking out for each other, following safety procedures. However, the Water Reclamation Department did have an employee in the maintenance department that suffered a lost workday injury, and it resulted in 2 days away from work. And so I have a description of that in case number 2 at the bottom of the first page. And basically an employee was injured as he was working on a John Deere tractor linkage. The employee had a non-work related medical condition in his abdomen that was aggravated by his subsequent on-the-job injury. Treating physician told the employee to stay off work for 2 days, and then the employee returned to work status on 9/23/9/24. So he's back to work. It's an unusual situation when you take a look at injuries. OSHA is very clear on the guidelines or the requirements that have to be followed. On this one, have to take a look at, even though it's an aggravation of a non-work related medical condition, he was in fact performing some work, which in OSHA's view and the regulations is an aggravation of that condition. And so that's fortunately he's back to work, and it's 2 days of lost work time. So, and I do have other items that in the report cover a lot of ground. One area that I'd like to mention is Joe Plunk in the maintenance department submitted an action card, and in his action card he had some suggestions. It's on page 4, item number 10. He had some suggestions on gaining access to the filter building, stormwater building roof, and just some excellent suggestions on what we might do to better access that roof. And so we did get that item completed. And just very pleased with the fact that working together, Joe submitted an excellent action card to get that done, and that's just the way it should take place. If you see something, I hate saying that tripe-face. Say something, but say something to us so that we can address it. So that's my report for the month and some of the highlights, and be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions?
That's our mantra at INDOT, is see something, say something, so. Take care.
Thanks, Dan.
I should say.
Scott?
Okay.
Good evening.
Hey.
Alright. Now I have enough food. Okay. I'll start by reading the September cash balances. The operating fund at $6,876.61. Municipal fund had no balance. The improvement fund had $696,47. Vehicle replacement, $296,782.97. Equipment replacement fund, $974. There was no balance in the grant fund. The total was $2,400,110.05.
Can you do me a favor? Just reread the equipment replacement, please.
$900,754.
Yep, thank you.
But I say 900 million. We need it.
That would be nice.
Thank you.
Indian Springs and Whippoorwill. I haven't put any balances in there. The next, I don't know if it'll be the next board meeting, which I'd like to talk about later. But we're getting real close to paying these things off. And I'm thinking we should just go ahead and pay them. Continue to collect the money that we're currently collecting from the individuals that are paying it up until the time that balance is truly paid. But this will take the SRF out.
Okay.
And I'll talk to Mr. Meyer about that, but I think one's 40,000. I think the other one will be paid off in January anyways. And that was actually the bigger one.
Okay.
That was the Indian Springs. So, the SRF debt reserve had $519,196 and a penny. The SRF bond and interest at $331,978.17 for a total with BNY Mellon of $851,174.18. The tax levy funds, stormwater at $887,608.93. The refuse municipal account, and I always say it, but that's mostly used for clearing the payroll. It had no balance. The refuse fund had $1,102,033.73. Special revenue had $5,664.30. The levy excess fund had $8,522.14. Tax levy grant had $4,324.78, and the rainy day fund had no balance. And it's getting to the point, I think I can take that off the schedule, because we're not going to probably have a balance there again for a while.
Okay.
So, unless we elect to start.
It depends on if we're gonna have any kind of a surplus
Right,
in the tax-based funds.
right.
The other ones don't make any difference at all, make it.
And usually the tax-based funds are skin tight.
Holt, are you okay with taking that off since you're a budget guy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So the subtotal on tax levy was $2,008,153.88, and the total before the Carwick Fund had $5,259,438.11. The Carwick remediation, I think we might be missing $500,000 in interest on this account because it's the same as last amount, but that will be recorded tomorrow. It was $218,668.75. My guess is it's probably $219,000 now, maybe $220,000. So it really doesn't. All it is the interest income from Verizon. For total cash balances of $5,478,106.86. And that's really about it. I mean, everything's tracking well. There's a couple items I'd like to review a little bit more, but overall, we're doing pretty well on the cash side. The operating fund looks a little low, but if you look, we've been transferring probably more into those other funds than, we've been transferring as much as we can.
Okay.
And, which is what you guys approved. So, okay. What else I got here? I got the budget performance reports for operating fund. The next one should be refuse funds. If anybody's is screwed up, just let me know, because I'll get you the right ones. I caught one packet that had, but the rest looked okay. And like I said, they're all tracking, at 75%, 70%. There are a few, really not a whole lot to talk about. Because, we're tracking right. It looks like we're going to end the year right at budget for most of these funds. And the only one that's made up of multiple departments would be the 6201. And it's got like 9 departments in it. And so this is consolidated. And that's that. Unless anybody has any questions. I mean, there's not really a whole lot of excitement there.
Just with regards to that rainy day fund, if for some reason there becomes funds available to, we could obviously
I'd bring
add
it
it
to you.
and bring it back as we did
But
5 years ago, but I'm pretty sure it's been a zero balance for quite some time now.
It's been since I've been here.
yeah, it was like 80,000 a couple
Yeah.
years ago when we moved it. But if you look at what we get in property taxes to support stormwater and refuse, yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
there's not much left, there. And then, I don't know. I have a couple new business things. Can I just bring them up?
Sure.
The first one, our board meetings kind of get mushed together at the end of the year. And what I would like to propose to the board is we have one scheduled for the 29th after Thanksgiving because of the way Thanksgiving falls. And we had one scheduled for December. What I was going to ask the board is to maybe cancel the December one and do it as part of January. Because then we'll have year-end final numbers for 20.
So you want 2 board meetings in January is what you're thinking?
No, just one. We'll still only need one in January.
Okay.
We just need the December one. I really don't see a need for.
Don't we have to, the board have to approve expenditures?
And I can hold back on, hopefully, now that we're getting caught up, hopefully we can hold back on that. Because it's only a month. And hopefully you got all those holidays in there. I don't know how much is really going to be coming in.
No, I'm talking about paying bills.
No, I know, and that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Because you got all those holidays, so you're not going to be getting as many bills. And really, we're pretty current, and we don't really have any big projects going. And another thing is, it might help hold down spending a little bit, because spending all of a sudden has, it's mind-boggling the number of invoices that we have to process a month.
Okay.
So we could suspend spending for like that month. And I don't think.
The only problem is we don't always have a choice on spending if something breaks down, you know.
Well, yeah. Well, you could say that about anything. But,
Yeah, I mean, you can't suspend eating, you know.
well, yeah, but what do we do when there's not a meeting for another 4 weeks? Something breaks down tomorrow, what are we going to do?
You call me?
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, I call it. Yeah, we just call the board in cases like that.
Yeah.
Right.
What's the pleasure of the board? I don't really go one way or another.
To meet around every 30 days works very well for many, many years. And, hold off, 30 extra days or approximately 27, 28 extra days seems like unreasonable to me, but I'm set to be here, so.
Well, no, it's your call. I mean, we can meet.
I know that there is, issues because you're not gonna have year-end numbers and stuff, but to still meet and, look over our docket and review, I think is important every once a month. Unless there's an emergency or unless there's, a reason you can't.
I guess I would agree with you.
I know they have done it in the past here, just so you know. And that's why I brought it up. So, and really, there's usually not a whole lot to talk about.
No,
December.
December meeting usually.
So it can be a short meeting then.
Right. Just need a quorum.
All right, well, let's just go ahead and do it on the 27th.
All right. And then the operating fund, well, I'll have you approve that one at the next board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the budget.
Okay,
Sure.
that sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott.
I can get up. So far, so
Steve?
I'm sure.
Good evening, everybody. Steve Stanford, Operations Manager, Sanitary District. Mr. Milotovic?
Yes,
You
sir.
get first cut if you want to say something at all.
Just to say that I don't have the exact numbers here, but our operating efficiency as far as effluent quality continues to be above and beyond. We're approaching the end of our disinfection season. I think the beach monitoring this year has been also successful. We do have some interesting numbers from the beach monitoring to consider as far as E. coli in different parts of the beach.
Okay, well, are you guys gonna present that to the board, or what are you gonna do?
In December,
Okay, great. Okay,
actually in November, sorry.
okay,
We can do that.
all right.
Also to say that we have completed the pretty extensive and challenging cleaning of our digesters. Thank you very much for appropriating the money. I know there's some conversation about the need, and I can assure you that the evidence suggests that it was long, due. We found as much as 11 feet of sand in one of the digesters. And I think what happens in situations where we treat flows that are in excess of our actual design capacity, even maximum, which we do to protect the receiving stream, and reason why we've gone such a long period without having a release from our permitted 002 outfall, albeit doesn't render all the treatment just the most fundamental. So we strive to control the flow in a way that we retain in the storm basin all the flow that we can and put through as much as we can so that we're not releasing anything that is not getting the full treatment. As a consequence, though, it overwhelms our grid system to some extent. That's why I believe that some of the extra accumulation of material is as a consequence of those exercises. But I think it's still something that we should do, and we would like to continue to do, again, to protect the receiving streams.
Mike, if I may, I think it's worth pointing out that when we received the billing from Merrill Brothers for the digester cleaning,
Yes.
it was several $100 under budget.
Great, that's great.
But the budget was 300 grand.
It was $312 and some other dollars. I don't recall the exact figure.
No change orders.
No change orders.
That's important.
They paid us.
Well, it's helpful, that's for sure.
Yeah,
As far as keeping budgets are concerned, yes.
all right.
All right, Mike, you'll get the last cut too if you got
Okay,
something.
all right, very good. Thank you, Keith.
If I may,
Yep,
President Smith, I'd like to raise a topic I don't have on the agenda here.
okay.
Vehicles are hard to come by these days.
Oh, yep, yep,
The UAW strike.
yep.
Josh Barnett identified a couple of F-250s at Castle Ford One of them was priced at $50,000 and some change, and the other one I believe was $54,000 and some change. If I may, I'd like to ask for the board approval to acquire at least one, if not two, new pickup trucks.
Steve, why don't you go into the reason for them and the need, please?
Yeah, many of our service vehicles are extremely old. We've lost one in a crash recently. That was a really old pickup truck, but we did get $12,000 from the insurance on that one. And it's just getting to be time to replace some vehicles that are either lost or completely worn out.
So, Scott?
This is the first I've heard of this. So, I would say we had one individual that was out for a while. They have returned to work and they take the truck home. And as far as getting to, I found out yesterday about it. So I called about it. And what we've been trying to do is move all the diesel to CNG. As you guys know, these are both diesel. The only things available are diesel. I talked to someone today, the sales guy, and he said it's now they're down to 12 to 20 weeks lead time, which to me doesn't sound that bad on CNG. So I would ask that the board, I mean, in the amount, we have the amount in our reserves. I'd ask the board to do what they do with like some of the other items. Go ahead and approve it, subject to the district's review and final.
Sounds reasonable.
So you guys, like.
You can approve them going forward with the process
Right.
of acquiring, because you still have to either get quotes or demonstrate that this qualifies as a sole source special purchase before the board can approve the purchase.
Why would it be a sole, I'm sorry, why would it
I
be a
don't
sole
know.
source?
I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying you would have to, in order to be able to buy this from without getting competitive quotes from a specific dealer, in this case, you'd have to establish that there's the only dealer around who either sells these or has these available and you need it right now, so to speak. Or B, this is the fleet, I don't know if it's a Ford or whatever it is, the district probably has Ford. But that's what kind of thing you have to establish, that there's a justification for not going out and soliciting quotes or bids. I guess in this case it'd be quotes because it's less than 150,000.
We have we have got 3 quotes so far.
Of the CNG,
Now it's CNG.
just diesel. All right, so I guess just a little background on this. It was brought up to me, and I said, go ahead and bring it up at today's meeting. So that's why this is coming, that it's not on the agenda. But I do think it's fair what Scott's saying, Steve, about, what do we want our fleet to look like, right? So, if I'm going to ask for permission for you guys to approve it with the staff making a recommendation back to us. Do we want to do that before we say go ahead? But whether we determine whether it should be a CNG or diesel, I think we've made a very concerted effort to move our fleet off of diesel to CNG. So, I guess I would ask for you guys to approve it with the understanding that they're going to, make a decision and a recommendation back to us. Does that make sense?
I was confused because I heard that we have just 2 vehicles were found in a Ford dealership, and I heard that there's 3 bids, they put it out for 3 bids.
3 quotes.
For 3 quotes?
Out of
3
different
quotes.
dealers.
You have, you gotta do that for it. So,
You have to go to 3 different dealers, or 3 different companies to get the quote.
or if you want these guys to, instead of, letting staff take a look at it and recommend it, maybe staff can get together and bring us back, a proposal or, a plan at the next meeting.
Was Castle the low quote, or?
I don't recall, Jim.
It was by a couple $100.
That's the answer.
So I was. At least what I saw yesterday.
And that was a quote for 2 diesel vehicles?
No,
Castle.
that's the other part that I gotta look at. No, it was, I believe it was just for 1. They gave us a price for 1. Each dealer gave us a
Quote
price
for 1 price.
So Steve, do we need 2?
I'm sorry, I'm really confused. So you initially said you had, Castle, you had one for 52,000 and change and 50 something and change, and that's what, I'm confused.
And Josh Barnett.
So you're buying,
Josh Barnett obtained some quotes from 3 dealers,
okay,
and I don't recall which one it was, but he's got one Ford F-250 at 50,000 and change, and another one at 54 and change.
Josh is here if you want to.
Yes, it was through Castle Ford of Michigan City, and I also checked with Bozak, and the availability is going to be difficult in the future, is what I was told through the different dealerships because of the fact of the auto strike. They're not sure when their vehicles would be available. Castle was the only one I found that had 2 in stock, available, ready to go. He said we would receive roughly a $3,200 concession because these are 23 models. The 24 models would be higher than that. And then we got the government discount and the 2 quotes from Castle, which you guys probably have the information on.
Okay.
And he said he would hold those, depending on the turnout of the meeting, but he wasn't going to guarantee the availability a month from now. So that's kind of the situation.
That's fair.
And the other thing that's happening here is we have been told not to plow. And we used to use these to plow the streets. We have been told to leave that to the street department. So these won't be used for plowing. Maybe the alleys get the garbage trucks through, but that's probably about it. And so that's another, like a little twist. And do we really need all these in the winter?
Yeah, I asked about the CNG and they said availability, they would have to look into it. They had no guarantees. They said it would be an ordered item. You probably ordered it. Yeah.
You said 12 weeks.
12 weeks, okay.
12 to 20. Well, 12 to 20, but still 20.
Yeah. So if we need to acquire quotes for the CNGs, we can get those.
Okay.
that's what I think we should do.
Yeah, I think we should do that. Let's see if we can get quotes on the CNG also. And then, next meeting we can prove it. But can you guys also do us another favor, please? Can you give us a better reason why we need to get them and what the purpose of them are going to be? And what they're going to be used for? So we can make a decision on, whether we need 1 or 2. I mean, I think, we need a little bit more information why we need these vehicles, so we can make an informed decision.
Plus the quotes, the board should receive a copy of the quotes and it should be made a part of the board's records.
Well, in all fairness to Steve, I said today to do this, so I don't, this was sprung on him, so,
Right.
that's in all fairness here, so. So let's just go ahead and wait for the next meeting and do it the other way.
Okay.
All right, thanks,
After we can
Steve.
provide the substantiating information
Yeah,
you're asking.
okay, thank you.
All right, the next item is a proposal from DMC Consultants to assist us with maintaining our SCADA system and historian client for 2024. Current contract runs out in the first week of November, if I recall correctly. These people have been really, really good to work with, and they have provided us good service. And Scott, if I'm not mistaken, the project-specific engineering hours, they really didn't touch much of that this year?
I didn't notice that. The total contract value, you know, continues to get through all these projects. You know, so they had a lot of work to do at the start,
Right.
and now it's tapering off.
Right, so, yeah, the maintenance service is on page 14 of this proposal, which is $28,332 for the calendar year. And it's item number 2 is the engineering support hours. We didn't dip very deep into that for this year. I don't really expect we would next year. I'd like to ask the board's approval to contract DMC to continue their services.
Steve, how does this, I've read through here that we had a 2-year contract with them for the last 2 years. How does the annual cost for this for 1 year for just under 60,000 compared to the 2 years on the last contract?
It's on an annual basis, it's essentially the same.
Okay, that's what I assumed. One other thing I noticed in here is on page 13, they talk about, you know, the client agrees to pay hourly charge and expenses for all time spent by DMC's employees and representatives with respect to any work performed. I just think, I didn't see anywhere in here where we should have a not to exceed without authorization. Does that make sense to the rest of the board? That,
Well, I expect I would write that into their contract.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that's.
I mean,
This is just a proposal.
We don't really sign, we're not gonna sign this thing.
I just wanted to make sure that was in there.
Well, when you
It sounded like they're just like, yeah, we're gonna just keep going, and I just wanna make sure that, not without you authorizing them. Okay.
Yeah, but it would be written into the contract, the sanitary district standard form.
Okay. Any other questions on the proposal from DMC?
With regards to their training, it says that they will provide an engineer for on-site training twice a year. Have they done that in the past?
I don't know that we've availed ourselves of that service. We've been doing things online, considering how things were the last couple of years. We have some new operators on staff, though, and I think that would be helpful to go ahead and take advantage of that part of the proposal.
It also says provide 1/2 day of on-site training to relevant personnel, which to me looks like 2 times plus 1. So, I mean, there's an opportunity to receive training that we're paying for in this proposal, and it would make sense that we, at least if we give us put forth effort into following up, that we receive that training if in fact it's needed. And as you just mentioned, it is needed.
It can't hurt, it can only help.
Can't hurt,
Yeah.
that's right.
So,
Yeah.
Is that part of the maintenance fee or is that part of the hourly rate?
What page are you in the whole?
this is right under page 9, about halfway down. This is under upgrade process, semi-annual visits, 4.3.2.4. DMC will provide 1 engineer on site for 1 day, twice a year.
Yes, will be,
And then down about 8-9 lines, provide 1/2 day of on-site training to relevant personnel. I presume that has been available previous as, and I just was wondering if we were using, taking advantage of that, to make sure we're getting our money's worth.
well, as I said, it was for the most part, those meetings were held online.
Okay.
But they do come out when we work on this equipment. So to me, that's training.
And they charge us, but this says DMC will provide 1 engineer on site for a a one-day training twice a year.
And
That's different. It sounds like that's included in our package as opposed to, being charged. You follow?
Right,
Follow me?
it's under the 4.3.1, it looks like, so it's under the time and expense activities.
Okay.
Well, the last 2 years, we spent $80,000. Over 21 to October.
Okay, that's all I have.
So, any other questions on the proposal? And Steve, you'd like us to approve this today, correct?
I'd like to move it into contracting.
Okay. So, can I get a motion from the board if there's no more discussion on DCM's proposal? Q231675.
I will make that motion to move forward on getting a contract with DMC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Just I should have asked you a question on this. If we wouldn't have approved this, what would be an alternative?
I'm actually unaware of any.
Okay. That's what I figured the answer was going to be.
And it's obvious we've been satisfied with what we've been getting.
Yeah. We don't want a new system designed. All right, go ahead, Steve. Keep going.
Okay, next item is this US Highway 12 and Lake Avenue relief sewer. Engineering evaluation and design. I gave you new handouts that have the full picture so you can see. It looks like most of you are looking at those now. The first handout is the map of our system. It shows how the sewage flows from areas north of Highway 12. At present, it comes through what we refer to as the B&E line. If you look toward the lower left-hand corner of the picture on the first page, that's the B&E line where that comes there, and it comes through the siphon to the 54. It would benefit us greatly if we could relieve some of the flow through the B&E line. It has capacity issues when we get essentially a 1 hour, 2 year storm. We'll get surcharge alarms in the B&E manhole. So this is really, really needed to facilitate future development north of Highway 12.
That's what I was going to say, Steve. That we need this so we can develop those. Right now, it's not developable because we don't have the capacity.
Right. And so I'd like you to look at the next 2 pages of this first handout. What I like about this project is that it has leverage. It's a 2-for-1 kind of situation. Here, if we move forward with this relief sewer, we're going to relieve not only the B&E line and the siphon, but we're going to also take the flow off the 54. And this next page is a 100-year 2-hour storm event as modeled by Strand. And you can see that we have manholes near the marina that are actually flooding. 100-year doesn't really happen that often, but I would like you to look at the next page where you can see that the manholes on the 54 become surcharged in a 10-year 2-hour storm. And that's not unusual to happen, so I think this project is really justified. With that being said, I would like to point out that, because there's some urgency with this matter, I worked with 2 engineers who both visited and walked down the entire route with me. We looked at manholes, we looked at the lay of the land, and I've got 2 proposals here, one from Fate Great Lakes and one from DLZ. And if you all would like to hear the representatives of these 2 companies present their proposals a little bit, but I suggest 3 to 5 minutes for each one of them.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. We'll give them 5 minutes each, and whoever finishes first.
Want me to come up there?
Yeah, come on up here and sit down.
Great, thank you. So I'm John Hannon. With Great Lakes, think GLE we call ourselves. We've been in, my partner Jason, who's sitting back here, and I have been working with Steve Fay for many, many years. And in 2018, we acquired Steve's company. And so Steve's still with us, thank God. He's loves doing what he's doing, and we've kind of taken the burden off him on the managing the business and that part of it. But we've been in town since 2018. I personally, I'm a civil engineer, civil environmental engineer. I've worked with Mike for over 30 years in various capacities. We've worked on lots of projects, from wastewater treatment plant expansion projects to small sewer projects like this one. So we have, all the experience, necessary. My partner Jason is a registered surveyor. I'm the professional engineer. The project engineer, Alonzo back there, would be the guy doing the work on the day-to-day basis. So we certainly feel that we're qualified. Did you get a copy of our proposal?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I would just hand this out to just let you know who the team that we put together for this project.
I can pass them down.
Yeah. That's all.
That's it.
So basically, I'd be the project manager. Alonzo's project engineer. Jason and our senior designer, Mary Little, who's been with us for well over 20 years, would be doing quality control and quality assurance. Steve Fate would head up the surveying portion of the project. And then we have a couple senior designers that would be drawing the project for us. So, as Steve said, we looked at the project with him, we walked the site, we're familiar with the project. Basically what we're talking about is that at this point, something like a 1300 GPM sanitary lift station that would be located just down the path from the rails to trails, just down here, on the other side of Highway 12. That would be available to pick up the Lake Avenue and the Highway 12 sanitary sewer and divert all of that flow, probably, perhaps to a line that runs into the plant from the east. But we're also going to consider bringing that force main directly to the headworks and bypassing the entire gravity system and just unloading the whole gravity system from that. We have a kind of a primary route for the force main, which would be, over the bridge, follow the trail. But we would also look at alternate route, maybe going under the river or whatever to, it might be, part of the design will be looking at alternatives for different layouts.
Mr. Hannon, if I may, it's a little bit less than 2 minutes.
Okay. The scope of work is to do all the survey work, necessary survey work, preliminary design, final design, bidding and construction services to help you through that process, and then to be with you through construction of the project. We are excited to be here, and we'd like to do the work for you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Kenny, would you like to present?
Sure. I'm Tony Kenny, DLZ. Is that quicker than 4 minutes? No.
Well, it was.
No, thank you for having us here. And I presume, again, you guys have copies of this proposal as well. My name is Tony Kenning, and I am out of our Munster office for DLZ. DLZ is a Midwest firm with about 800 personnel. In Indiana, we're the second largest firm, civil A&E firm. We have offices in South Bend, Munster, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Burns Harbor, and Maryville. The work would be performed predominantly under my direction out of the Munster office, with the exception of electrical engineering, which would come out of our South Bend office. I have I know some of you from work in the past with Michigan City. I've done, I think, at this point in time, 4 lift stations for you guys. California Street, Krieger upgrades, Martin Luther King, as well as the Smith Valley lift stations, some of the more decorative lift stations with bathrooms out there, as well as some work on Sheridan sewer separation. So this particular project is a very good project, as Steve indicated. It's going to leverage some things. It's always nice when you can bypass some areas and go straight to the plant. Got one almost identical to this concurrently going right now in another community, about twice the size of this. We're looking at about an 8 MGD lift station in the other community right now doing this pretty much the same thing. This particular project, if you are able to go to attachment 1 of Exhibit A, the map, we've actually looked at a couple of different alternative routes. We were considering going straight to the plant into the headworks, completely bypassing all the sewers. You've got
Unloading them.
unloading them, yes. You have a proposed yellow route, which basically follows the trails. And you have a green potential route that we had looked at that might show some promise. Directional drilling under the creek. I suppose the force main could be hung on the bridge in the yellow option, although I'm not convinced that that's the way to go after having looked at it. I would prefer the drilling of the route under the creek in either scenario if possible. Our initial plan is to do a lot of the due diligence. You have to cross the railroads up there between Lake Avenue and US 12 with a gravity sewer. There's a lot of utilities under the railroad, so a lot of our scope, or I should say there's portions of our scope that have a significant subsurface utility engineering component to it, which basically, once we identify utilities, we're out there coordinating with the railroad to do any type of potholing necessary so that we can make sure that we've got the correct depth and we set your lift station at the correct elevation. Even if you do that, the gravity portion at a later phase, we want to make sure we get that lift station.
Mr. Kenny, we have about 1.5 minutes.
Okay. So anyways, given a lot of thought to this project since Steve and I had visited the site, and we really hope for the opportunity to provide services to you.
Great. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Okay. So now we just need to find the money for it. 10. I'm just kidding. So,
In your back pocket.
What do you got here? I got $1. It's a start.
$5.
There you go.
so I think what we should.
Would this qualify for our?
I literally only have $1.
It's up to the city.
They still have money.
Yeah.
And, they're getting towards the end. Okay.
I mean,
We've also talked to the redevelopment commission as well on this. So.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're waiting on some discussions that they're having now in regards to this. The nice thing about where this is going, they're gonna pave over that bike trail as a trail. So if we can do the construction work before they pave it, then we can pave over it. We can work simultaneously together on it. So I think what we wanted to do on this is we asked Steve if he would engage a couple firms to figure out what we need, because Skylar was asking us what the price would be on something like this. So I don't think ARPA's a bad call either. I mean, I think we should play both of them and see what we can get. So if the board agrees. At this point, but this is a very much needed line for us.
Yeah.
So, okay, so do we need to approve anything for you on this with the proposals?
Attorney Meyer, my thoughts were, I would ask for permission to evaluate the engineer's proposals.
Right, and as a recommendation, is that what you mean?
Yes, I'm, given the somewhat urgent nature of this project, I'm just scratching my head about waiting until November's meeting.
Oh,
Well, I don't think that's, we can wait. I mean, we gotta find the money. So, you know, I mean, I think that's,
We're gonna have to wait.
yeah, so I think you just bring it back to us in November.
We will come back with a recommendation.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, and thank you both for presenting today too. That was thought out plans. Okay, keep going, Steve.
John, I'm gonna call on you. I think Golf View and Crest Hill is that done now or just really close to being finished?
I got some notes there.
Okay.
John Borsta, Sanitary District Construction Engineer. Gulfview Road is a stormwater drainage improvement from Hillcrest Road to south to Deer Creek. The project has utilized 2 existing dry wells on the north and south side of Hillcrest, with H&G underground placing 275 feet of 12-inch pipe draining to a grouted concrete riprap at Deer Creek. Restoration with black dirt, seeding, mulch blankets have been completed. Asphalt paving with road cuts at Hillcrest and a residential driveway will be completed next week.
Thanks, John.
That's a good project because that was a pretty nasty small scale swag site, larger scale swag site. I can report on the item D, the swag site drainage improvement at the alley behind 2510 Wabash Street. This has been contracted. We've established the property owner permissions that we need to move forward. I delivered an easement to Mr. Schultz at Meyer Glass. Interestingly, our alley lies across his property. And I'd like to put a new storm sewer pipe through there as well. And I called him this afternoon and he didn't call me back yet. But last week when I spoke with him, he said he was amenable to the idea of providing us an easement for the system.
Okay.
So that's where that one is.
yeah,
I'm trying to-
I drafted an easement, but Mr. Schultz just needs to sign it.
I put the drawing together. You wrote the written part.
That's what's called drafting. Attaching a document, a picture is not the same as drafting.
Does the easement cover access and utilities, or just utilities, since their alley is going through?
It's specifically written as a stormwater drainage system easement.
Right.
And
That's my understanding of what Mr. Schultz wanted to limit it to at this time.
so does that mean after we're done, the alley has to be closed?
We're not gonna be done.
No, he wants it to stay where it is.
If the alley is there on this property, that's just purely an easement for the sewer,
Storms.
can we continue to utilize that as an alley?
Because
That's a question for the Board of Works.
it's certainly been there a long time. Would there not
I
be
assume there's probably an adverse possession.
would there not be a prescriptive easement for the alley?
Prescriptive easement, yeah. But it's something the Board of Works would need to address. Apparently they didn't have any problem for the last 20 years.
It's offsetting the driveways, or the alley is kind of an accommodation for Meyer Glass, because they have some facilities in the back of their store.
Just throwing it out there to see. 'Cause I've dealt with things like this before in other communities, and all of a sudden there's a barricade up on each side.
Right, but they can't stop us.
Great, okay. Oh, so that's that one.
Thanks, Steve.
John, do you care to comment on the US 421 sewer project?
Sure. We haven't had a progress meeting since Thursday, September 21st. The next progress meeting will be held Thursday, November 2nd. D&M has completed placing all of the 825 feet of 18-inch gravity sewer line from the manhole at the northwest corner of the intersection of 421 and 300 North. Heading west along the north side of 300 North to a manhole that will accept flow from Love's Truck Stop, just west of the A&R pipeline. NIPSCO scheduled for meter drops at the lift station and flow meter at the interstate. Testing on the lift station and forced main will be scheduled for next month. The complete project is scheduled to be completed by December 1st.
John, are they off 300 North now then?
D&M is, Love's Truck Stop has had that road closed for heading west on 300 North by the Harley Davidson dealer.
Yeah.
That road's been closed for additional lanes being put in for truck traffic to get into, or vehicle traffic into.
Is there access to the Harley Davidson dealership now?
Yes, there
I
is.
know the NDOT had gotten some calls and complaints on that. So.
Yes, there is.
Thanks.
Next item I have on the agenda is the laboratory building structural evaluation. I see that our structural engineer from West Janey sent me a message on Sunday. I didn't get this to print it for the agenda, but I can fill you in on a little bit of the details if you're so inclined.
We are, but can you also send that to Tim? Because he's taking care of that for the board, so I would really like him to look at the email from them. Unless any of you guys would like to see it.
I'll be happy to forward it to you.
It's on the way.
Thank you.
The first interesting finding is that
You want me to hold it over here?
we've got chlorides in the grout on the bond beam, which causes corrosion of steel reinforcing bar. This is perhaps the most interesting finding, is the top of the wall was not constructed consistent with the 1984 design drawings. The height of the parapet wall was built shorter, which resulted in unfortunate roofing details at the perimeter of the upper roof.
Do you have any recourse on that?
No.
It's been more than 20 years.
Statute of repose.
Yeah. Have to always ask the attorney.
The flashing isn't working the way it should. Just let the moisture into the wall. Corrosion and expansion. We're recommending a repair that will address the grouted bond beams, correct improper flashing systems, and create a slightly taller parapet around the roof line. But preface to all of that is Tim Crow from West Janey says that yes, we are far along on the repair documents and the report is still in progress.
Okay.
Those were the findings he provided.
Basically, what I remember seeing up there when I went up there was the roofing material comes up on the parapet wall half as far as it should have gone. So the flashing on top didn't overlap on the flashing, so water was continuing to get in the wall for 20 years or more, however long it's been. Yeah.
Since 1984.
So,
That's 20 hours.
I'm surprised it hasn't gotten more frost heave problems earlier than this.
Okay. So that is that. Item G, 8G, was a sewer main extension for the east area annexation. these first 2 pages are 2 different maps for 2 different routes that were prepared by SEH as part of their 2022 preliminary engineering report. So there's 2 options out there. I'm not certain which one's the best to go with yet. But City Council and the Mayor were anxious to kind of move this thing forward, so they prepared an MOU between the Sanitary District and the Board of
I have a couple more board members.
Jim, if you'd like to discuss this MOU and these
Yes,
slides.
the money that, some of the money, and it totals 3.7 million that the city is going to provide for this project. Some of the money is what's called the ARPA funds, which have some restrictions on how they have to be actually paid out. One of them being that they can only be paid out directly by the controller, for instance, to the contractor. They can't give it to a department and then have that department pay it out. So, in order to kind of make this all work as best as possible, because obviously the sanitary district has the capabilities of designing and constructing the sewer system, the city does not, is we drafted, and the one you had before you, the state Board of Works, who's a contracting agency for the city, has signed a memorandum of understanding, which basically sets out that the city's going to provide 3.7 million for construction of this project. The sanitary district will pay whatever the engineering costs are. We don't know at this point. There's some estimate mentioned in here, but until we figure out it, including the precise route, we won't really know the exact cost of anything. And we'll have to get bids, of course, and whatnot for the construction. It provides, in essence, that everything is done by the sanitary district, requires that, because the water department is also extending their water lines out into that area approximately the same time. So my understanding is they wanted the same engineer out there doing this, so there wouldn't be conflicts. And without, at least I don't think anybody here had any input. Anyway, they selected Haas and Associates, who all of you are very familiar with, to be the engineer for both the water and the sewer. So the district would work with Haas and Associates, and the system would be designed as the district basically the board determines, and by our standards and everything. And then the normal process for a district project. The difference would be when it comes around to signing the contract and payments being made on the contract. The pay request would come here, you guys would approve it, but it would go to the city, and then the controller's office would cut the check, for the actual payment of the cost out of the 3.7 million that they've set aside for this purpose. So the MOU just lays all of that out in much more, written by 2 lawyers, just much more wordy. So that's in effect what it talks about. And I recommend, of course, to get advantage of that 3.7 million that the board approved the MOU.
So the engineering costs are around 600,000.
That's an estimate that people who are kind of involved in this know something about, but you can typically figure somewhere between probably 15 to 18 or 20% of the construction costs having to be for engineers, but it's speculation to some extent. But it's it's a $3.7 million project, so it's going to be more than a notion.
Okay.
And this would be payable out of our improvement fund, which has the $1.some million in it already. Obviously there's other things also, but.
Right.
Steve, do you know SEH on this route, the first one follows along 20, if that was in the US 20 right-of-way, or if they're planning an easement for the whole route?
They were talking about right-of-way. This all was part of a PER that was prepared, or begun to be prepared. That's the only reason I know anything about it. That was done a couple years ago.
For the parcel here, I remember Haas did some layout for that.
Yeah.
I know I talked to NDOT about it, our staff on planning, and there's no planned improvements or widening or anything for US 20 for many, many years in the future, so it should be fine. I was just wondering, because I know Swan Lake is Michigan City property, and,
Yes.
you know, if that was gonna be moved off the right of way into Swan Lake.
So, is there an advantage going down Trail Creek besides, or is the advantage cutting through?
There's, okay, each one of the two alternatives has some pluses and minuses. Alternative one may be difficult to gravity drain the sewage from the entire annex area. And secondly, alternative one's actually less expensive than alternative two. Alternative two, if I recall correctly, I'll have to come back on that.
Okay.
Do we have an easement already?
Alternative two plus was that it would allow development. I'm talking a couple years ago now when all this was prepared, there was discussion by Clarence that they had some developer was interested in the area
To the west of
to the
Swan
west
Lake.
of Swan Lake, and therefore we need a sewer, and that's where the concept of alternative two came in, of getting a sewer closer to that area, so, but as Steve pointed out, due to various reasons, the evaluation of exactly whether or not a gravity sewer would be able to serve all of this, or if you needed more than one, and how many lift stations and all of that, the engineering process stopped early on because it was determined that we were not going to use SRF funding. And so it's very preliminary on the engineering side.
Yeah. Do you know, Steve, if we have an easement along the railroad tracks in the beginning of the alternative two? Well, Ron, I know there's a sanitary sewer to the west of where it looks like we're picking up that last manhole from the GAF development there.
My understanding is that the actual route, we would want to actually avoid the railroad property because I don't recommend we pay rent to the railroad anymore.
I think there's probably an existing easement on that development all the way to the road. I thought way back when, because that was property my dad owned way back at one time when that was first being developed.
Our PER has preliminary plan and profiles for both of these routes. As far as the easements, part of the next step is for the engineer to help us determine which is the best route. I would want to keep it off the railroad property.
Unless we have an extra 10 years.
Okay.
But, Attorney Meyer, are you recommending that the board?
I'm just recommending the board approve the memo,
The memo.
and then, that we move ahead with the project. There will have to be a contract between the board and Haas Engineering, but that hasn't been drafted yet. It'll be our standard contract.
Okay. So, I'm looking for a motion to approve the MOU between the City of Michigan City and Michigan City Sanitary District regarding the sanitary sewer main extension project for the East Area Annexation Plan.
Just as another question.
Yes.
We will be able to use our sanitary district improvement fund, of which we have 1.19
Yes,
million in there right now.
correct.
Okay.
That's for the engineering.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I got that right. Thank you.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, Steve.
Mr. Gorsica, would you care to contribute on the Lincoln Avenue sewer replacement project?
Sure. DPW sewer replacement project from US 12 south to West 7th Street. Woodruff is finished placing all the new sanitary main. We also included in that was 4 new manholes and 20 laterals and cleanouts, all have been installed. All that's complete, the sanitary sewer phase is complete, and the stormwater drainage phase will begin tomorrow.
Great. That's great. Thank you, John. Any questions on that at all, guys? Okay. Okay.
Next item on the agenda is the Carroll Avenue and Michigan Boulevard Sanitary Sewer Extension Project. Mr. Wright, do you care to comment on this one?
If you'd like me to.
I'd be delighted if you
Can I
could.
come up here?
Yep, come on up, Jeff. Feel like old homework?
I feel like I'm on the wrong side of the table. We can scoot around for a minute.
Yeah. Come on over.
So, there was an original opinion of probable cost submitted in a drawing. Subsequent to that,
This is sort of what's in their board books.
this is what they have.
Yeah, that's the it printed not exactly correctly altogether.
Subsequent to that, the estimate, the opinion of probable cost was updated. It was very general, the first one, and we went through and broke down the items more specifically to include a little more detail. We got a couple of quotes for some of the work, some of the pipe work, dewatering, the lift station. We got some quotes trying to narrow that down to a better number. Updated the drawing, put the lift station on there. We did some preliminary work coming up with, the loading, the flows from the anticipated areas to be picked up. Beyond that, you have the drawing, that's the contemplated
I
route.
handed that one out for him. That's the whole one instead of cropped.
Well, I know the drawing.
I think you do.
That's the contemplated route. There's some, I don't know how much detail you would like, but there's some interesting things along the Cheney Run route there. There's some debris, found in the borings along that route. So there's some items on the proposal to address.
Some deleterious fill material.
Yes, stuff that's
Use the engineering term.
not compactable very well. So there's some items on the OPC to address that. Other than that, I don't think I have much more to present. The OPC's updated, the drawing's been updated. The cost itself, the estimate itself is provided. Something on the order of $883,000. The cost, estimated cost. I feel like that's
This is sanitary.
sanitary near Michigan Boulevard and Carroll Avenue, and that's, I'm going to call it the southwesterly quadrant.
This is a really strange situation, how the sewers got installed all around this island and the island was never served. It predates possibly my birth.
This doesn't include the hookup to each one of those businesses that are associated.
We have, our estimate includes only doing the work in the easements, only up to the edge of the easements on either side. We would need further direction, and it wouldn't be unheard of to make those connections up to the house, with the laterals. It wouldn't be unheard of.
I would hope that when we finalize for for bidding that we want to have taps and stubs and cleanouts. It's part of the work.
Are you talking about all the way up to like wherever the points of connection are?
For these homes that are not connected with the businesses as well.
Got it.
Okay.
Oh, got it.
So
I would hope.
at the end of the day, when we get to that point,
City Area Schools Administration Building from O'Reilly.
Got it. Okay.
but as the estimate is right now, it just shows work within the limits of the properties that the city has authority over. We didn't go off site.
Okay.
But there may be, I don't know how all that works with, getting off to get to the owners.
The district standard practice is, either the district or the developer anyway, but puts in that the project includes the sewer stubs to the right-of-way line, whether it be the end of an easement or a street, plus, as Steve mentioned, the cleanup. And then the property owner, whether it's homeowner or business or whoever, takes care of the lateral, because it's a private, the lateral's on private property and it's private. So that's the standard operating procedure for the district.
So could I ask, is the businesses presently have septic systems then?
The animal hospital has its own private lift station right now that would discharge to the same manhole as this system. The system that the Haas has drawn up for us will pick up homes on Carroll Avenue that are otherwise unserved and properties on the corner that are unserved that have some sort of septic systems presently.
And I understand the owner of the property has 2 other buildings contemplated to.
Yeah, the man with the animal hospitals purchased at least the 2 parcels to his west.
Yeah, across that parking lot.
Yeah.
So would those existing, there's a question, septic systems have to be removed?
You don't need to be removed, it would just be reroute their sewage to the new sewer main.
There's criteria.
They have to be abandoned,
yeah.
in a certain way, they have to be filled up, either removed or filled up with the right stuff, including the,
I'm so curious. Field.
Right in the middle of town that have no service.
The septic field, right? It's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Jeff.
is there a proposed source of funding for this?
I was gonna ask that.
We're hoping you guys will fund it.
I was kinda,
Wishing and hoping,
yeah.
doesn't pay the bill.
I think the next step would be some kind of proposal, maybe.
Right.
That would help you evaluate, you got the cost and then the
Right,
engineering.
and apparently there's some economic development associated with this. I assume this is probably within a TIF district.
Yeah.
I was going there tonight. I'm asking for the other one now.
Well, we got somebody here.
I'm listening now.
Can you use ARPA funds for this one?
Yes. If the city approves
All
it,
right. All right.
it can be used for any sewer, sanitary, or storm
All right.
project, including the state.
As long as the controller pays for it.
Yes, as long as the controller writes the check.
Okay. All right.
Okay, the next item is Mike and I have worked to update a bulk refuse disposal and collection policy on behalf of the district. Changes will be made to this program since last month or the month before. There was no amnesty day during a month. There's a spring and a fall cleanup where people have an opportunity to put out additional items. But otherwise, the idea is to have the customers pay for additional items, a household full of furniture, for example, or and we sort of sorted out some item-based pricing for small pickups. an hourly rate and tonnage estimate for big pickups. The last page, again, is an example for a full dump truck load. Approximately $841, which is just a little bit more than if the customer called a local, a reputable local roll-off box company, which presently, as I checked it last week, was about $798, whether you get a 20 or a 30-yard box. For them, the difference is you can put construction rubble in a 20-yard box, but they don't want that in a 30-yard box. The 30-yard box is supposed to be for pretty much low-density material.
And the other difference is we're loading the material up and not the homeowner or whoever.
Exactly. If somebody gets a roll-off box, they'll have to load it themselves. Which, if we're going to pick up 15 cubic yards of rubbish using our people and equipment, we can't.
That'd be worth $50 to me.
We can't. Yeah. So I guess what I'd like to ask is your approval to move forward with this and get it published and out there.
So, what's the procedure? You had mentioned that you had briefly talked to the council about this.
I have, and I'm waiting for a follow-up response from our liaison, Mr. Prespolinski, in respect to the schedule of fees here.
Okay.
So there is set to be perhaps a workshop with the council members. I have not heard yet. Probably make another call to him tomorrow, just follow up, see what's happening. But I think they're also they were waiting for this information in reference to acting on the ordinances that are before the council.
Okay.
They wanted the detail behind the charge instead of.
Yeah. Okay. So then we need to approve this and then they can go with it.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions on this at all? I think it's thought out. It's
answered each question.
and taken a lot of time on this, so I appreciate the staff's time on this document, so.
Is there any chance for public comment on this? You're about to prove something with no chance for comment. And this is something.
Well, but this is a board thing. This isn't a public commenting period. This is basically us approving what the staff has already recommended. So there will probably be time at the city council to go ahead and talk about this.
It's gotta go for a workshop, it's gotta,
Yeah.
it's an ordinance,
So,
there's a lot of draft, readings.
A lot of layers yet.
yeah. So, all right. So what do we want to do? Do we want to go ahead and approve it at this point?
I'd be obliged if
You
you
guys-
I make a motion to approve it, pass it to the council for their
Consideration.
Okay,
discretion to call workshop.
yeah. All right. All in favor?
I'll second that.
Oh, sorry.
That's right.
Thanks, Holt.
All right.
I was going to if you didn't.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Okay, the next item has to do with staff organization. This topic I raised at the last meeting. I'm asking for a revision essentially to an existing position, which is refuse superintendent, such that that position would also be responsible for fleet management for refuse and collections. First item I've got in your packet here is a request to approve the increasing the salary for the refuse superintendent from $64,346.15 up to $72,926.78. And specifically that we modify this position.
So how did you determine the increase in the salary?
We looked at factors about the amount of work that would need to be done in this position. And it struck Mr. Mladovic and me as comparable to, the assistant foreman of a collection system is paid. That increase would make this refuse superintendent's pay equal to the assistant superintendent of collections pay.
Okay.
Holt, which is reasonable.
Okay.
I thought so too.
Any other discussions on it?
No comments.
Okay. Did you really no comments? So I would ask for a motion to approve the revision of the refuge department superintendent's position with the increase of the salary.
Possibly even the job description.
And also the job description. I didn't know if we needed to take those separately or not.
Advice attorney?
No, you
Can go together.
All right, so before I ask for the motion, let's go back, and is there any questions on the job description at all? Okay.
Based on the $64,000 that was appropriated for that, that's what who came up with that initially? Is that just what was proposed by the city?
That's what was in last year's ordinance.
Right, that's a carryover for many years.
Okay, I didn't know where that number came from to begin with.
Yeah.
No, it's in our resolution,
It's in your salary resolution for last year, and it was the year before,
which I'll have to
Carries for the
update and I'll bring to you at the
Next meeting.
Right.
Okay.
position.
All right, so let's go back and ask for a motion to approve the revision of the refuge department superintendent's position and also approve the new job description that will go along with the increase.
So moved.
Second? Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 9C is still on staff organization. I would like to refer you to the one I gave you because it's all there. The changes on here are listed on the back side. The first is that the engineer 1 and 2 positions would report directly to the operations manager, which is in effect how it operates for the last quite a few years since I've been here. The GIS coordinator would be assigned to the operations manager, which is the same way that has been effectively operating for the last 5 years at least. This cross-references the revision to the refuse department superintendent to include the fleet management duties for the refuse and collection fleets. And finally, Mr. Mladovic and I would like to increase the number of positions for refuse inspector from 1 to 2. My projection on this is that the opportunity cost for the added position is going to be negative.
Can you, for people who are watching, explain what these people do and why you believe that it's going to be a revenue enhancement?
Well, yeah, the idea is to have 2 refuse inspectors working hand in hand with code enforcement to implement this policy on bulk items and enforcement of the existing and soon to be new modified refuse ordinances.
So they would be out inspecting around the city if they find violations of the ordinances, new ordinances, for instance. They would give a warning or go through the process of writing a ticket at some point, and if there's any revenue collected that's intended to come back to the refuse department?
Yeah, and I would envision them working with the cost estimating sheets that you just looked at in the bulk refuse policy. Somebody's got to go through that with the customers, and then get the customers to come in and make their deposits and so forth. That's how I sort of see that going down. And at the end of the day, I think it's going to be cost neutral or beneficial for the sanitary district to add this second position.
So what are we talking as salary though? And Scott, do you have that in your budget?
No.
We have an hourly rate for refuse inspectors.
Yeah, I have hourly rates, but I wasn't.
Not a salary, but number.
No, it's not. It's a non-exempt position.
But we can,
You talking about full-time?
Sorry?
we can cover it, but recently, we've been working with code enforcement a lot more. And that's, getting these things,
Has been beneficial.
yeah. It's getting a lot of this caught up on paper.
Okay.
What'd you say? We're asking if Chris is still getting calls on this.
Okay.
Something better done anymore. Just recently lose one inspector.
One is the former inspector resigned. And we've had another fellow who's worked at the sanitary district for a long time. He's been trying to fill the role, but he's had some health problems.
So do we need to hire 2 more? Or are we gonna continue with the one individual that's had the health problem?
The existing person who works for us, I understand they're on the mend and they're gonna be coming back.
Okay.
And so if you authorize the second position, we'd be hiring 1.
Okay.
And so also, the potential candidate for that CDL, and they could assist also with refuse, other issues if we're running short on CDL drivers.
So the 2 refuge inspectors that we have, that doesn't fall underneath there?
We have 1 at present. We have 1 position, and we have 1 person who's been missing some time lately due to health problems. The one we had before then resigned.
Jim, is there such a thing as the ordinance covering part of that to be reverted into a pay? So, for example, when they do the rental of the dumpsters or the fees that go along with that, those monies could go to personnel?
We put them to what we call a special refuse fund,
Right.
and we use that towards toters.
You can use it for what you want, but
Yeah,
Right
we've
now-
been using it for
toters.
you
So
have
we
in the
need
past, the district in the past has used it for toters, the special funds. If you got enough money that, you know, covered more than the toters, then it would be, could be used in other places within the refuse department budget.
But we didn't. That's why we had some of the ARPA money, as you know, go to the toters. So I don't think you wanna,
So
Move
far
that
this year,
out
we've
there.
collected 5,000 related to this. So,
you know,
just so you know.
yeah.
Yeah, the district has never
So,
covered the full cost
really
of the
it's-
toters. They've always gotten money from either the general fund or
Yeah.
ARPA or somebody.
Yeah. So really, Scott, what you're saying is that even at this point, it wouldn't be revenue neutral with these inspectors because we've only collected $5,000? I mean, do we have a problem collecting it, or is it
No,
just,
no.
okay,
Well, I'm sorry, I spoke too fast. We haven't written many citations this year. I think maybe 2.
and that's because we didn't have the,
The inspector we had,
okay, yeah,
wasn't,
He was ineffective.
and currently, the person that's out, that he is, I do not believe his title is an inspector. We had what we called assistant foreman for refuse, and we had 2 of those. So currently, we really don't have an inspector on our payroll.
Per se, yeah.
So the refuge foreman is supposed to be an assistant.
Well, that's why the other thing Steve presented, we're looking for someone to kind of oversee these people. Whereas today, we don't have that.
Right. Well, but that's not what we passed earlier. We did the fleet manager. Now we're looking at a refuge foreman.
Well, it's refuse/fleet manager.
Right, but the way you've got this org chart, it's going from the refuge department superintendent, refuge and collections fleet manager, which we increase the salary, over to refuge foreman, to an assistant refuge foreman. So that's what I'm saying. Those 2 are directly responsible for these refuge inspectors, correct?
I would have to look at it. I believe, I don't know, I'll have to look at it. I'll get back to you. I'll send you an email.
Okay, what you guys
I'll look at it.
This is how the chain of command goes today.
Right, so what I'm asking though is that we have had these refuge inspector, the one in the past was not that effective.
Right.
So if we hire an additional one, what's gonna change with the refuge foreman and assistant refuge foreman, making sure that these guys are doing their job? The way this is org chart is.
Well, I think what's going to change is we're going to get better personnel to begin with, and we're really going to need a hand enforcing the revised ordinances and this policy.
Well, that's what I'm concerned with, because, you know, with the ordinances and the new policy, they're gonna have to be out there, you know, driving the streets and making sure that things are done.
Right.
Okay, so do they have vehicles? Because that goes back to that question of vehicles too?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a proposal that we just table this until we hire a superintendent of refuge and let him kind of help mold this division, since we're kind of all not sure of where it's going, nor where the ordinance is going, and let that person kind of help mold his own department.
If y'all would like to table the request for a second refuse inspector position, I'll take no exception to that.
That's what he's talking about.
Yeah. I have a question for Jim. Is there ordinance limitations for who in the sanitary district employee can write citations?
No. The citation, and that goes for city ordinance violations of any kind. You can write, I can write violations. They're just civil citations. They are not criminal in any way. You don't have to be a sworn officer. Now, some cities, and I can't speak for Michigan City because I never looked into it, require whoever they limit who can write tickets for the city. But they don't want just any Tom, Dick, and Harry out there passing and writing out tickets against people.
Yeah.
And they have certain, requirements, shall we say, for the people who actually write them. But from a legal perspective, a ticket is just like you going to small claims court and filling out a complaint. It's nothing that requires any kind of special training or any kind of authority, special authority, unless the city itself imposes it.
Just the other day, Michigan City is, like Jim said, a little different, because you do go to City Hall and get sworn in.
That's correct.
So
we are one of the ones that are different, and it sounds like we don't really need to do that.
So, I want to go back to this question because Chris has brought it up several times, and Tim just asked him, and he's still getting calls at the city for refuge pickup. So we have someone in the system and everything we're trying to get working with here. And so my question is, on the org chart, shouldn't that person be somewhere within the refuge department that I'm not seeing, because they're picking up the phone and working the program for the refuge pickup? So
That changed just before I got here, because that person used to sit down at Central Services. And then they moved them here because they were using them for other functions within operation. So, I mean,
But
it might not be all bad moving that position back to Central.
well, that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah,
Well, if I can speak to that,
Okay.
Chairman, that I do have something in the works that I believe will address the issue of getting a human to respond to the call that comes in. We also are in the final stages of completing a better system of managing the calls and recording them, and also for our inspectors and other staff and refuse to enter into the system. So
I completely understand what you're saying, but we're gonna pay a guy more money. We're giving him more duties, and we need to have that system fixed. So and you and I have talked about this, so I guess
Right.
my question is, why don't we put that person in the refuge department and have that person reporting to the superintendent? I don't know, I'm just asking, and I don't know what you guys think, because I guess that's, you know, if they're gonna be responsible for that, then maybe that's where they should be placed on this org chart. And then they have someone directly to them.
one thing to keep in mind also, that I believe that the call volume will go down once our policy is in effect, because that's one of the concerns, or the problem that's facing us is this just continuous amount of material being put out for pickup that we have no capacity to pick up.
So the point being is
That
that
quickly.
I have not heard anything about how we're gonna report this to the public. So they know what's going on with it, right? So, because it's gotta pass city council, and it's gotta go through. So my point with that is, you can't go out and start writing $50 tickets or whatever when the public doesn't know what the policy is. So, we have talked about this policy several times. I mean, it seems that all roads are leading back to this policy, right?
Right.
So now we need to take a look at it. What my point is that, we have heard from City Hall that these calls are coming in. I don't see where you're gonna change that by just passing this policy right now. There has to be an education out there to the citizens of Michigan City. So, that's something that needs to be either brought in by us or someone at City Hall. And so it goes all the way back to all the stuff that we're talking about with refuse. I think anyway, I don't know what you guys think.
May I make one more comment?
Yeah.
Okay. The information or the ordinances that are in place now actually are pretty explicit about what's acceptable and what's not. And what's happening now is we are not adhering, not we, but the public is not adhering to those stipulations. So my vision is that with these efforts, we would also have public information, I don't know, some outreach program that we can emphasize to people that it's not okay to put your stuff out anytime you want to, because there's no community that I'm aware of that allows that. I know some of the communities like Valparaiso, Portage, Chester, whatever, you get a tote or you get two totes, whatever fits in the tote is what they pick up. Anything else, you have to make arrangements. So we're trying to be accommodating and not here to impose punitive actions on the public, but at the same time, a reasonable effort for everyone to work with us and put the material out, like with the spring cleanup, and then we are anticipating adding a fall cleanup. So those would be the two opportunities for large amounts of material, and then the other times for residents to, if they need to dispose of a particular item or something that would be relatively modest fee for the extra pickup. So that's where we are, and of course, we can't do anything about informing anybody about anything until we have a confirmed plan by the board and then the council. So that's where we are. But I would suggest, in the interest of no one feeling like they're being blindsided by fees and so forth, that we embark on a public information approach of some sort that I'm sure we can devise, so that no one is all of a sudden, facing some serious expenses without knowing about it.
Press release, website posting for the sanitary district, etc.
Right, social media and all that.
Yeah, I don't think a press release is people aren't gonna read that. And you're gonna have a one-shot story. You need it in the water bills, you need to have something go out to them.
Yes.
And I go back to the.
I'm good with that.
I go back to the refuge department, I don't know. I mean.
Who on this org chart answers the phone for somebody who wants a special pickup or who's complaining about a pile of garbage somewhere?
The dispatcher,
Okay.
but they're also, we're going to distribute that load of calls that come in, so that if the one doesn't get it, another will, and if both of those are taken, there'll be another person. So we will.
That's the person way over here under the financial manager, receptionist dispatcher.
So that's, the idea is that will put us in a position where we can, our intent is to answer every call, and if for some reason a voicemail has to be taken because of some overwhelming volume due to some special circumstance, that call will be responded to within a very reasonable time.
Just move this guy. What's I think?
Mr. Smith, one last thing. We're at the very initial stages of implementing a software to support what's being discussed.
What time?
I think the board should see 3 options that we looked at. And, so what we're trying to do. Because right now, I was sitting at home watching football, and AWS has something similar, and that's not who we're going with. And not only that, besides the best routes to pick up these toters, there's another one that will track when they're picked up, and you can enter in this. It's all like one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. It just seems like to me that the offenders are the ones we need to communicate this with. And not everyone is an offender, okay? Yeah. Some people just have their garbage and they pick it up. It seems like a reasonable way to communicate to the offenders is the citation, and then 24 or 48 or 72 hours to have it taken care of, and then the inspector go back, and then citation if it's not done, and that would be the most ideal way to communicate it. Because who needs to be communicated to are the offenders.
Just once again,
and yeah,
so you can issue these citations because I forget which city.
How do they read, I guess is the question.
Well, I forget which city department does this, probably someone. They issue citations for long grass, right? And no one ever pays them, and these things just accumulate. And that's what I believe is gonna happen here, because in Mr. Meyer.
No, they don't. They put a lien on their property.
Yeah. The only time it comes into play is when you go to sell your property. So that's
in the heat of it, The offenders are who we need to deal with. And the way to communicate to those offenders are to say, here is your citation, you have 24 or 48 hours, but that doesn't exist, right? We don't have that. We just have what we have and the citation. And a lot of people won't ever know that information because they won't read it, they won't get it.
Right.
And they certainly aren't going to probably finish reading the 4 pages, okay?
Right.
And it seems like to me, the way to get rid of it, not just for the longevity, like you said,
Right.
Mike, but to give them the opportunity to be aware of that policy.
We have that.
And the citation reads to
Yes.
what? I've never seen one. So
Yes, I don't have a slip here in front of me, but it's like a yellow tag sticker thing, kind of like what you see on cars on the roadside, when police issue the vehicles there for some period of time. Basically has the citation indicated, the violation, excuse me, and the number of the inspector, and a warning or a statement about the 24 or 48 hours or whatever happens to be.
How is it posted, Mike?
It's posted somewhere by the door or by the entrance or somewhere where it would be in plain visible sight, and then the inspector will come back around and follow up on it, and if it's not taken care of within that time, then there would be the red tag.
So right now,
Can I ask how many citations have been written in the last 2 years?
I think we already said about it, that was part of the problem. We only had a
That's what I mean, so there is no system. So the system is you put a yellow tag, but then the follow-up would be you don't get a ticket.
There is a system, it wasn't being observed, quite frankly. So, anyway, I mean, we've talked about this numerous times, and
Yes.
it's unfortunate, that is a fact, that we've had a lapse in the way the system is supposed to function. And that's why we're moving into a new direction here with who's gonna be doing the citing and the issuing out the warnings and the follow-up.
So
And we will definitely be following up on the follow-up and making sure that people are doing what needs to be done. That's why we're also being selective about the candidate or successful candidate that we would hire for this job.
it's going to be a tough position.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
new systems and new explanations and, deadlines given to, people who do pay their stuff on time and expect, service. Nobody knows, I don't think.
And that's what leads me to my motion, that I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's, that I had made previously, is that you are hiring somebody. Both gentlemen are very busy, so why not let this new $70,000 inspector or supervisor come up with his plan and his people and how he wants to run it, because it's failed. And it's not failed because of you, it's failed because we have not had that person. So now that we're going to potentially have that person, let them run their department how they feel they can make it work successfully, because now we have then someone to blame if it does not work. And I stand by my motion.
Sure. And what we also haven't had is the feedback that those calls were not being serviced, or really couldn't be serviced because of the volume and the acceptance that has accumulated over time. Not pointing fingers at anyone.
In the software behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not pointing fingers, and that's why I brought up, potentially moving this person, so, the refuge department does have a say in it. I don't know, I mean.
I will happily second your motion to table until we get a
clear definition.
A position filled, or positions filled with suitable candidates.
The motion was in reference to the org chart, right?
Yeah.
The request for approval.
Yeah. Well, so, can I get a second on that motion? Oh, you did, Cole. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
That's right. Just gonna take some time.
So,
I know you tried.
No,
that's fine, that's fine.
I appreciate it.
I'm not complaining at all about how the responsibilities are designated. I do appreciate
Commissioner Ettinger's point about the focusing on those that appear to be violating the most, and that.
When the guy goes out to give the warnings, tell him to take along a stack of your policy.
Policies,
Every time
yes.
you write one of those
Yes.
warnings, you give them
Leave
the
it there,
copy
yeah.
of policy at the house, the same place you put the sticker.
I
That
think
way
it's-
they get to read it and they can understand what they need to do.
The bottom line is not to
Yeah.
get them to pay, the bottom line is to prevent it from happening.
Exactly.
With, you
Corrective
know,
measure,
yeah, just get
not
corrective.
punitive.
Preventative.
All right. So, I guess, do we have that person hired for the refuge department superintendent? Is it gonna be who we have now? Or, and we're just adding the fleet manager onto it? Or what are we doing?
We have someone on staff that would be a strong candidate. I don't know if we need to advertise for that, or if we don't give everyone an opportunity, but we
So-
have someone that would be a candidate.
I guess I'm looking for when that person's potentially gonna be hired. So the reason I'm asking that is because we're talking about, the refuge inspectors. We are slowing down now, but, Scott said, we've got this, this, person, or the computer program.
Right,
So we're kind of putting it all together.
yes.
So I guess my question would be, by next meeting or something, do we want to do an executive session or something like that to kind of talk this over? I mean, it seems like it's a,
There's gonna be no basis for an executive session.
okay.
But there's no reason they can't hire somebody quickly.
No, I think they should hire someone here,
Right.
but then, we have to approve this org chart sometime. So I guess we're going back to the bottom and we're tabling it right now until,
Trained.
that person's on board. So do you guys want to hear from this new refuge department supervisor, refuge and collections fleet manager? And so you guys can ask them some of these questions about or do we want to just
I think it's up to staff.
staff?
I
Okay.
think it's.
All right, I'm just, because next meeting, we're gonna be asked to pass this. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys are fine letting staff do everything on it, and we'll go from there.
I would like to see if whoever they're going to hire present to us what their proposal is, their plan is. I mean, they should develop a plan, right, of some sort to say, I need not just 2 inspectors, I need 4 inspectors, or I need it because of these reasonings, or
Yeah, we could certainly
what
see
their
that.
plan would be to run their department. I mean, we don't know, right? And so I would like that person, if he or she is hired, to present to us what their proposal would be. Yeah, their plan. This just would make sense to me if they were gonna be brand new. And it's a brand new plan. And they're gonna have to go to the workshop, and they're gonna have to address the council, and they're gonna have to tell them what this is all about too, I would think.
Solved much by increased follow-up.
Sure.
From
It
that
is.
view.
It is,
Simply, yeah.
but we have to have the right inspectors or the right number of inspectors to be able to do that, coupled with the computer program, coupled with the individual that's taking the calls in for what's happening. So it's gotta be a consolidated effort there.
Sure.
Yes.
And it's a tough job, I know it is. I hear the calls, but I know people have had piles. They create a pile by their house, and then their neighbors go, oh, a pile. And next thing you know, they add to the pile, and then it just keeps growing and growing and growing. So, or construction companies stop their truck and dump in the pile. And it's a continual
We get
problem.
a roll-off by New House by Me, and all the stuff that I'm seeing that someone has come by and just dumped in that thing is crazy.
Yeah, this shoulder couch and everything. Before the storm.
All right, so are we finished, Steve?
I'm ready to move on to staff reports.
Okay.
Before we go on to staff reports, we're gonna discuss about, we had the conversation about, Andy Mechanic, working with us in
Yeah.
our organization
Yep.
as with the maintenance staff.
Yep.
And I think in the conversation, there was also a suggestion about the fact, because of his qualifications and that perhaps instead of him just being, he would still work with, under the supervision of the maintenance person, but be designated as a technician. Do you have that job description, Steve?
Can we bring that at the next meeting? Do you need to do it with Andy right now? Because we don't have a job description or anything in front of us. What you want to do?
Okay.
I mean,
Sure.
no, I'm just asking, is it gonna cause a problem with Andy if we don't do it next meeting?
I don't know exactly, hopefully not. Should be okay, I guess. Just kind of hoping to get something done, but I appreciate
What
that.
needs to be done?
You don't have a job
Know what you're
description.
talking about.
Yeah. Right.
What needs to be done?
What needs to be done is to provide the job description to the board members, which obviously you don't have. So to look at, essentially, who would be part of maintenance, but we would like to bring him in at a salary that's comparable to the either the maintenance mechanic, two with the CNG special, as a CNG specialist, because of his skill set at, I believe that would be at 26 and 26 cents. And anyway, so the job description explains all the nitty gritty of the position that he would fulfill.
Next meeting.
So anyway, I guess it'll be a next meeting.
Yeah. All right, anything else with reports?
Oh, I want to highlight the laboratory's quarterly report. They have just come out with a very busy summer. If you look on page 1 here, in addition to our E. coli samples for the Parks Department, they analyzed 750 for the LaPorte County Health Department because their laboratory was out of order. For this,
Do we get paid for that? Okay.
yes. Actually, just sent the health department a bill, and they wanted to confirm the address for where the payment should go. And we added 3 stops east of the Michigan City border. We're probably the best beach crew ever this year. Absolutely 0 hiccups. I didn't have to fill in for them or any other thing. I'll call your attention too then to this DMR QA final report, the lab report. The proof of the laboratory's proficiency is in the pudding right here. These are unknown samples that are delivered to the laboratory. They analyze them, attempt to determine the correct concentrations, and then report them. And you'll see that every one of their results is acceptable.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would like to commend the laboratory for doing a really good job this year.
And that's something separate from the A2LA.
Yes. This is something like the PTs is required under our quality plan. That's the actual vehicle we use to make it happen.
And all this while keeping an eye on the roof, making sure it doesn't fall in on them.
Yeah. That's your job.
We're working on it.
I only mentioned that to indicate that we have quality control mechanisms without the A2LA.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. We discussed that before, so I think that's a great point.
Steve, can I ask a couple questions on Jim Michael's report, which is the 4th one in our package?
It's a collection system, yes, sir.
On the first page, he has item B, service basement calls were 14. Is that it dispersed all over town, or is it a small area that we know we're having a problem with?
I would expect that's a customer who's got a sewer backup and they call, we send a crew out to verify whether or
So
not.
it's the same resident almost every call, 14 of them or something like that.
They're pretty widely disseminated
Okay, so
around
it is
the
all over
city.
town. And we haven't identified an area that has a specific problem. Okay. That's,
The older parts of town have more tree roots in the private laterals than newer parts of town. That's an endemic problem in Michigan City, is the roots growing into the mains and the private service for that matter.
If I'm not mistaken, those are primarily private problems.
private laterals, okay, thanks. And on page 3, which is item 5, on talking about the 900 block of Franklin and 1000 block of Pine Street, at the bottom of that item 5 on page 4, it says, district needs to engineer a new 8-inch sanitary main that has a manhole in the alley and on Pine Street so that we can service the entire block. Is that moving anywhere? Is there a status? Is that found that it's not needed?
This was just determined, Commissioner, and it's something that we are going to want to move forward with, because right now it's kind of an ad hoc sort of sewage collection system in the alley there.
It needs correction.
It does.
Okay. Thank you. I just saw that and thought, oh, that's the status of that and see where it's going. Thank you very much. That was it I had.
But the sewers are flowing. That's good.
That's good. That's good.
The toilets are flushing.
Yes, that's the important thing.
Again.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything else, Steve?
No.
Jim?
I really don't have anything to do. We're still in the same phase on the Long Beach lawsuit. I'm obviously working with staff to mention tax agreements and stuff. If anybody has any questions about this, happy to answer.
Anything, guys? Okay, sir. Item 12 is approve and allow revenue and tax levy claims for payment. I think I get a motion. I mean,
I do have copies.
all right. Yeah, I didn't see the packet either. Yeah, I was gonna ask. But, okay.
Let's pass them around before you vote on them.
There's one thing.
Thanks, John.
Good. I'll make it easy. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And just so you know, the signature page on that one is this.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And the total was 1,046,000.
Okay.
So anyways, that goes with the one that doesn't have.
Okay.
This is September,
Yeah, what I did,
September to October 25th, correct?
yeah, what I did was that since the August board meeting, the day after the August board meeting, I carried it forward to today. Because I wasn't sure how or if everything got for last month. That's why it's so high. It's actually 2 months.
Yeah.
But I would, just for the auditors, I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
And it looks reasonable because it's running about 400,000 a month on checks. And the 100,000 it's on EFTs. That's pretty much what it is every month.
Okay.
The EFT, the October EFT on my checks, it's going to be made tomorrow, so it'll be on next month. So,
All right.
it'll probably be, so next month, it'll be like 200,000 on
All right.
McCann Industries,
Yeah.
what is that?
That's 170 lot.
Yeah,
That was that new payload we purchased.
okay, very good. Got it. Just stuck out and I didn't remember seeing something
Yeah.
previous
You guys did it
called
for
McCain.
it.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted to be refreshed. Thank you.
All right, any other questions on the, revenue and tax levy claims for payment? All right, can I get a motion, please, for payment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any old business? Any old business? Any old business? Any new business? Any new business? This is not public comment, I'm sorry. This is between us.
Okay.
Any new business? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll see you guys at the next regular Wednesday meeting, November 29th, 2023. That's what.